mic's on. Here we go. I'm gonna sit over at Dave's seat if it's okay.
How's that?
You might charge you more.
Takes a little while to heat up. I'll start off with this one. How's that? And then we can jump to that one. Are you all ready, Council President? Councilors? Okay. So obviously with me tonight is Nikki Peters, Economic Development Coordinator, and then Melissa Tasker, who's going to appear before the License Commission. Here she is. So we're going to just give you an update on economic development, et cetera, and then if there are any questions, fire along. So we often get questions about, same as probably you do, like what's going to go into Shaw's, or what's going here, and are you trying to bring in high-tech companies, and all that sort of thing. I'm sure you get the same sort of thing. So here are the responsibilities for each, Nikki and Melissa. They work together, but we try to use them to emphasize. So Nikki sort of emphasizes mostly in industrial manufacturing. So the larger businesses then start and fresh incubator for the city. So if somebody's looking to start a business, we help them. We have space at Gallagher. That's worked well. And then also Farmers Market that operates on Saturdays downtown. And then the Twin City Rail Trail. She's been our liaison with Bill Mitchell. And then Melissa takes care of caters mostly to the small businesses in town, event planning for the city, technical and developmental reviews with all city departments meeting to help business along through the permitting process. So there are no surprises. That's our big thing, is when businesses come here, we want to make sure that we're here to walk them through city government and the process, but also so that there are no surprises. So nobody buys a building and then finds out later there's $200,000 worth of unanticipated things that they'd have to do. A restaurant, for instance, might have to put a grease trap. Well, there's different size grease traps depending on what size hood you have. And what does the hood determine? The hoods determine how big the stove might be. So there are all those things that we want to make sure people know about before the, in and during the process, and obviously before. So I know a lot of times people talk about sort of what's happening with, the retail world. So, I remember downtown when in the 60s they got nervous because the mall was coming and there are all kinds of things, and there was this panic mode, like we have to get parking right in front of each store. If we don't have it, they're going to go to the mall. And some stores from actually downtown went to the mall. And then after the mall, the big box retailers came, and that sent off another bit of shivers to the community, and then the online businesses. And so the online businesses were going to be the next thing. So the mall was going to put downtown out of business. The big box retailers are going to put the mall and the downtown businesses out of business. And now Amazon and all those big companies are going to put everybody out of business. When in fact, the sort of strategy for retail and for us is very similar. And the Omni-City marketing is very similar to what's happening in sort of the retail world, where it's all about whatever it is that the customer wants at whatever given time of day the customer wants it, and how do we get it to the last mile? How do we get it to your home if you want it delivered? How do we make sure we have it in stock when you want to come to a physical location? And the same way in city government. Whatever it is that you're doing, we want our customers to have an integrated, cohesive customer service, customer-friendly service and experience through city government so that it's seamless. Now, we had a small business that came through here the other day, spent 5 years developing their business plan, looked all over the area for a location to build their business. It was probably the most well-prepared small business that we've seen come through the door. And at the end of the day, again, still at the end of the meeting, walking them through City Hall, making sure they got the proper introductions. They're upstairs in front of the License Commission tonight for beer and wine license. But again, that's the kind of thing. Whatever the business is, we want to make sure that they have a good experience and that we're as helpful as we possibly can, whatever the situation is. And as you know, it's not, at one time it was mostly plastics and plastics related. Now it's retail and medical and office and the whole gamut. And again, that's where the whole Omni-City marketing comes from. We really want to reach out to everybody in every way that we can and be as friendly and as helpful as we possibly can. All right. hand it over to Nikki.
So one thing that, comes up quite often is kind of the change that businesses go through, obviously when they're facing technology. There's some talk, obviously online about things like self-checkouts and automation and robots, and do these things take away jobs? And, should we really support businesses that are shifting towards automation versus businesses that are small businesses that are run by humans, right? So it kind of got me thinking a little bit, and I made a call today to the store manager of the Hannaford on Lancaster Street in Leominster. And I said to him, since you guys have implemented self-checkouts, have you seen a loss of jobs, quite frankly? He said, no, actually, it's been quite the opposite, especially with the addition of Hannaford to go. So he explained it as Hannaford to go, 4 people touch your order. So you place the order online, someone actually shops it for you. They walk around the store and they literally put the stuff in the carriage and they buy your grocery items. Then there's an expediter who checks that to make sure that the order is actually correct. Then there's a third person who puts it into bags and a fourth person who brings it out to your car. So he said compared to when you go in and shop yourself and there's, a cashier and a bagger, maybe that cashier and bagger are not working there, but they're working in the grocery to go or whatnot. So he said he also has quite a few jobs that he can't fill. So he said he's hiring for a number of different jobs right now, which is the case for manufacturing as well. A lot of the businesses that we talk to, they literally have so many jobs that they just can't fill. They don't have anyone to fill them. So to that note, I reached out to Jeff from Mass Hire to ask him what his thoughts were on it, to see if it lined up. And I included a copy of the full email from him in a packet that I left up on your counters. And he said that even though some jobs do go away with automation, a lot of jobs are created because of that automation. So what they're trying to do is to work with the different partners, the schools, the community colleges, to train the next generation for jobs that really effectively don't exist yet. And that having that shift is really important. So I think what we're seeing is that we're not as worried about losing the jobs as we are training a workforce to take the jobs that are available, because those jobs are definitely available and no one to take them. Melissa can chime in here too, but this slide is about developing new business and what we do. One thing that I do every week is actually cold call businesses based on a number of different factors. But one, for example, might be the Jungle Road Master Plan, to see what types of businesses, for example, life sciences, that make sense for this area. Another may be what businesses they say they will support. So I keep a close eye on Facebook, other avenues to figure out where people are shopping, where they want to shop, to try to bring them here. Melissa, when I took this position, I talked with Melissa to see what we could do to make this process better. So we created a business guide that I left a copy of as well for you, because we found that people would go up to the building department, get a business certificate, and if Melissa wasn't here, maybe they would fall through the cracks, or they wouldn't know where to go next. So now this business guide can be handed out if one of us isn't here, for example, and it will have all the steps that they need to go through from start to finish to open a business in Leominster. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think perhaps more important than them falling through the cracks, excuse me, when they're not here, when one of us isn't here, is because the process is so easy that they can do it on their own. They can come in and have a business certificate in 10 minutes between the building department and the clerk's office, and they think that that's it. So that's how we would kind of lose them through that process, because it's so easy for them to come in and do it, which is kind of a testament to the way that the city of Leominster runs and makes things so business friendly for these individuals to come in and get up and running really in a matter of minutes, that we had to put this in place so that we could catch them early on in the process and make sure that they weren't getting in over their heads with leases or buildings that maybe needed modifications or alterations down the line. So that, I think, has helped a lot through the process and catching them there. Not because they didn't know what to do, but because they did know what to do and sometimes moved on without us.
Yeah, and I think in that process, we found that, a lot of the people didn't realize some of the additional services. Like Melissa does such a great job with all the events. They didn't realize that they could participate in those events and how many people they would reach. So anytime a new business certificate is issued, we send them an email. I included a sample email that went to the new taco restaurant, Mexican restaurant in town. And that's a sample of an email that would go to someone who has a commercial space. We have a separate email that goes to people who have home offices. And another email that goes to like booth renters, for example, a hairdresser that works under a different hair salon. And we send them that email. It's templated, but at least it goes out to everybody. And I do check in with them every 6 months to see if they've outgrown their space, if they have hiring needs, if there's really anything that the city can do to help them grow, and most importantly, know that Leominster cares about their business and that we want them to stay here. The feedback that we get is often, wow, we've never worked with a city that cared quite the way that you guys care. Or, hey, you answered the phone and you called us back and you guys are all really nice to work with, stuff like that. So we do as much as we can to let every single person who does business in Leominster know that not only do we care about them, but we really want to help them grow. So that the home business turns into a location, which grows into 10 locations and turns into a big business. So. So we just talked about this, obviously, growing existing businesses, workforce development, all the different things that we offer. So I don't want to be too wordy on all this.
It's important, though, on the workforce development side, and I think to reinforce what Nikki said is we're training a workforce that the jobs aren't even created yet. And that's very important because as those jobs go away, sort of the low-skill, low-end jobs, which are always needed, but as those go away, we add more technology. Similar to, as an example, at one time, there was a line at UC Press, and it took 10 or 15 people to put a line to print. And then through automation and technology, there's a person, they've added behind the scenes, there's a lot more, they can do a lot more jobs. Let's take that. They can do a lot more. The output is greater, and they can do it much more accuracy, but they add technology. So there's behind the scenes, there are a lot more people on technology, less people on the line. But when that job shuts down, you count 1 to 4 seconds. That job stops, and the next job starts. That would take ripping apart the line, adding knives, printing, everything is manual. But that's giving them more of an ability to have a greater output now. And so it means more jobs. So they run 2 and 3 shifts at a time, whereas maybe they weren't running as much. But certainly, they now can do faster, short term. With something used to take, if you want something printed, high end, like a book. Instead of waiting months to get that book, they can ship it out in 2 or 3 days. That order's going out the door. So that really provides more of an opportunity. That's where, on the education front, we really have to be training the technical schools and our local schools with those skills that we need for that next generation. We have a new dialysis center moving into town. They're going to look for those skills that people have to be able to supply the workforce for that dialysis center. And as these new physicians' offices and more medical comes into the city, there's more of a demand, for those skills. So that's what we're talking about is, yes, on one end we lose jobs, but on the other end we're picking them up. However, the ones we're picking up are more technical and require more skills.
And we're working, I made it a point to try to facilitate a better relationship with the CTE school because I wanted to make sure that we could have, for example, the dialysis clinic that's coming. If they have a specific need, I wanted to be able to very easily call the CTE school and say, what can we do to help train these students to fill these jobs so that we're filling them with local Leominster people. And the CTE school has been great. They're actually doing, they're working to, I don't know if this is public or not, but now it is. They're working to have a career day for their teachers to actually come out with some of these new companies that have some of these newer jobs so the teachers can learn at the job site so they can better go back and teach the students and implement that training. And I think that's going to be really helpful. I think getting the teachers out there to see what this technology is in the workforce for a day will really help translate to what the students are learning. So that's one thing we're really working hard on is getting that partnership to grow as much as we possibly can.
And then there's, the farmers markets, participation at our events. One of the other businesses had said one of the reasons they're coming here is they like all of the events. They want to be able to feed in off of those. They were excited about that. And then streetscaping and placemaking, making the city more beautiful. You saw that other presentation we did last time, so we'll just peel off of that and move to the next slide.
So this is for Melissa.
We already talked about this a little bit, where ideally, when a business comes in or a potential business comes in, my office is their first stop. It doesn't always happen that way, and the offices in City Hall are really good about sending them down to me when they get them, and then that way we can kind of track them right from the beginning. If they're looking for space, I'll take them down to Nikki. If it's something that I can help them with, I will literally walk them through the process to get a business certificate up to the building department, down to the clerk's office, tell them about all the services that we have. If they need a technical review along the way, if they are looking for resources, whether it's grant money or loans or whatever, we get them in touch with the chamber or other applicable resources so that we're functioning as a wayfinder for them. We don't necessarily have everything here at City Hall, but we can either send them where they need to go or find out where they need to go and help them through the process. And then we celebrate with them when it's time for their ribbon cutting. And that's one of the coolest parts of this, is getting to see their dream, their sweat all come to this one point, and we have their ribbon cutting with them. And it involves the mayor's office, the local newspapers, the TV station, the radio stations. We get everybody in. We share it on Facebook. We want everybody in the community to know and everybody to celebrate with us. So that's a really big day in a small business's timeline, and we want to make it as proud a moment as possible for them and share it with as many people as possible.
Melissa, I think you're downplaying yourself a little bit. I think that technical review meeting is amazing. I've never attended one, but for what comes out of it from people that I speak with, it's just the best thing since apple pie. Can you build on it a little bit? Like,
Sure.
Let us know what happens at that meeting. But we know some of the attendees, but.
Sure. Thank you, Rick. Those meetings are very informal, although the name suggests that they're not. They are an informal meeting with department heads, and they're made to get everybody on the same page very early on in a business's process, so that they're not finding out 6 months down the line that they need that grease trap, or that the sewer lines aren't going to tie in the way that they thought, or that the parking isn't going to be enough. We have these meetings not to hinder businesses, but to help them out and save them time and money down the road by getting all of the department heads in the city on the same page with their project from step one. And then we can move forward from there. So they are really helpful for a lot of people, and thank you for saying that.
Well deserved.
And I'm glad that you're hearing that from businesses too.
Yep.
We want them to be helpful. We don't want people to be scared of them. We want them to take advantage of that. It's a free service that we offer. There's no charge. You can come back multiple times if your plan changes, if you have additions. So we're really happy that's the kind of feedback you're hearing.
Thank you.
We actually,
You want to go to the next slide?
yeah, we actually had a company that I was working with that said to me that they actually pay an outside company to work with the different cities to accomplish what Melissa accomplishes with the technical review. And Leominster is the only city they ever worked with where they didn't actually have to engage that company, because we offered all of those services to them in our business development, economic development office. So that was kind of cool to hear that they don't have to pay thousands of dollars to, their site company to do what we're doing.
More people using our website, obviously, for that 24-hour ability to communicate with City Hall and get forms and find out information and, what's my tax bill, what's my neighbor's tax bill, that sort of thing. And if you've been to the mapping system that we have, the GIS system, it's incredible. There's nothing you can't find on it. I mean, I think we're down to mapping out hydrants and catch basins, and everything is just one layer after another after another. But the one thing is that businesses from outside, especially locators, site locators, are first doing their work online.
Yep.
As they look for locations. So the website has to be up to par, and it has to have all of the information, because before they fly out here and make transportation, and they've already done a ton of work behind the scenes. And go ahead, Nick, you can sort of explain the next piece.
So one thing is, obviously within our zoning, you all know that the table of uses exists. So if you look at a parcel, you have to figure out what zone you're in. You have to look and see if there's an overlay. You have to see if your use falls into that table. And that process is kind of lengthy, and a site selector probably won't get to that process. So it's my goal to work with Ty and Bond, who does RGIS, and thankfully Kristen still works there, so she understands what we're trying to accomplish. And so I went through the zoning map with Peter Nile, obviously the zoning enforcement officer, and also with John Roseberry, who made me some parcel-specific maps. And so what we were able to do is lay out every single business opportunity by right, by special permit, in every single zone and also in the overlay, and then highlight it by parcel. So if you go to a parcel, in theory, when this is automated, because right now it's just on paper, you'd be able to click on a parcel and see all of the uses and also see what the requirements would be to accomplish that use. So if someone wants to do a hair salon, they'll see all the parcels that make sense. They can click on the parcel, see what's there now. So for example, if there's a developer who really wants to do a certain type of business, in theory, they could buy a home and knock it down and put up the business. Not that they would, we don't want to lose housing. Don't get me wrong, bad example probably, but in theory, they could see all the different parcels that could make sense. So we're working on that. It's going to take a little bit of time to implement because it's a big undertaking, but we're close. And it's cool to be able to take the technology that's out there without having to change our zoning and allow site selectors and different, even just regular business owners, to be able to see where they could put their business within the city. Those are not to be confused with opportunity zones, which is another something else that we're working on right now. This is such a new program, but we're starting to see international investors, national investors that are considering investments in the opportunity zones. There are 2 census tracts that Leominster has approved. We market those partly through the state. There's a state website where you can actually go to their different opportunity zone maps. International, national investors can search parcels on CoStar, for example, with a checkbox that actually says whether or not they want to search in the opportunity zones. And the actual incentive for doing that is a capital gains incentive. So we don't offer that incentive. It goes obviously through their tax professional. But we do whatever we can to be out there with Leominster's parcels, and I'm trying to work through CoStar and MLS and making sure that we're aware of what parcels are for sale in our opportunity zones. My background's in real estate, so this is something I think is a really cool opportunity for Leominster that I hope we can take advantage of.
So they're investors specifically looking in cities for areas that are opportunity zones because of the tax incentives that there are. It's sort of a national program. We're not the only ones, but they're specifically looking at opportunity zones.
Yeah,
we have
they
them?
create an opportunity fund, and then that fund funds the purchase or the refi in the opportunity zone, and they can defer their capital gains. So it can be a really great program for the right person. Another thing that we've been working on is marketing city-owned sites for 2 reasons. One is obviously to gain some interest in our city-owned sites, but also for just general marketing for the city. So when we put these, like Jungle Road, for example, when we market Jungle Road or we market the Cap landfill, we receive a number of inquiries, and those inquiries don't always fit the zoning for our sites, or they might not fit our intent for those sites. But those are leads that we're able to, I'm able to give them a list of all of the different private locations that might make sense. And I don't act as a broker by any means. I just provide them every single thing that could make sense and have them reach out. But, we've seen, I feel like it's probably double the amount of inquiries since we've started marketing these sites a little bit more aggressively. An example of how we market that is through single property websites. So this is, jungleroadleominster.com. It shows.
Can you click on it?
I can't from here.
Okay, that's right.
I'm sorry.
But there's a specific website for a link that'll bring you to all the information about that plan.
And we can start doing more of these. We can make them more in depth. I just did a couple to get them out there to start with. It's helpful because it also helps with search engine optimization and keywords, and the more that they're out there, the more that Leominster is being searched, the more that Jungle Road's being searched. These that helps us get some more leads to these properties.
Do we employ search optimization
We don't right now.
No,
We
I
really
know.
have to because we own the name Leominster, and so anytime you hit Leominster anything, this is what comes up. But we'll talk a little bit more about our strategic plan for the future. That's really, where we see the future of our marketing efforts. But we'll show you that in a minute.
And when I do these sites, I do them through Weebly, which sounds like kind of silly, but it's a really great company for single property websites. A lot of realtors use them. I used them when I was in real estate. And it has a section where you can enter in all your search engine keywords. So included in the very small, I think it's like $20 or whatever, they actually do a pretty good job with basic search engine optimization as opposed to having to like pay for another service to do it. So it's not perfect. We could, if we invested more money, we could do a lot better with it. But for the sake of the small municipal budget that I want to work with these, this is a good starting point. And then we have invested some money, not too much, but enough, in some targeted print advertising, which I think you guys have seen before. It's to the commercial real estate community, including the brokers, owners, and developers in the New England Real Estate Journal. So we got a fantastic deal with them. They've given us, probably about $3,000 in added value so far, with upgrades to half page, full page, like a bunch of amazing upgrades, some online. And I've taken in just over 30 inquiries as a result of this advertising, which is great. And a lot of those inquiries have been from bigger Boston developers, developers closer to like Westboro, Southboro, Framingham, some of the commercial real estate brokers who literally called me and said, I didn't realize you had these parcels available in Leominster. I would have never thought about Leominster. So that alone, I feel like, has been worth the investment. Here's another example of the next slide shows a little more about it. The most recent one, we were trying to get the attention of hotel developers for the Jungle Road site. And we have, I've attended conferences, hotel summits, cold called hotel developers, and we've had a good amount of interest.
There's a lack of hotel space in this area, and so there's a real focus on it. We've talked to I don't know how many different groups, brands.
Hundreds.
Many.
Yeah.
So that's that's only a matter of time before something like that happens. But so this particular ad, we targeted, we wanted to make sure the word hotel developer was out there. So we're really trying to zero in on what we're doing. And let me just speak a little bit more to this. So when sometimes people will say, well, how come you can't get those high-tech companies to come here? And there are a whole lot of reasons why, but there are some companies that need to be in, say, Boston or Cambridge near the medical facilities, or Worcester, and they're there for, MIT. They're there exactly for them, or Lincoln Labs. So they're in, Boston because of the research hospitals or wherever it might be going on. But where we can begin to use search engine optimization and really begin to target our audience is for those companies that have a break-off. Some of their people, some of the workers need to be in Boston, and others don't have to be in Boston. And so there's more of a break-off now because they're looking and analyzing their space saying, well, we don't have to have everybody here. Just certain divisions within our company need to be here. So maybe the R&D has to be there, but maybe the manufacturing process or the small batch testing or small batch manufacturing can be made here. And so that's more of what we'll be targeting is those kinds of things. But we'll continue on because I think our largest cluster after manufacturing has really become medical. And I think that is become what our cluster is. And that's just, there's just no end to it. It just keeps intensifying, and we keep growing in that aspect. So that's how we can really start to use that search engine optimization with those keywords, because now we can really zero in on the parts of the businesses that don't need necessarily. And a conversation I had with my friends, I said, listen, you could build the facility you're going to build down at the seaport. You could build here in Leominster for a third of the cost. And he says, well, some of the people that I employ will not, they just want to live in the inner city. They don't own a car. They want to use public transportation or Uber or whatever. And I can't get them to come out this far. And I need to be near that high-tech world, that R&D pod. That's where he needs to be. Otherwise, he'd be here easily. So we need to find out those areas that people are willing to sort of come, don't need to be in the Boston area, so we can market directly to them. Let's go to the next slide. And then social media. When we first started off with social media, a lot of the departments wanted to have their own sort of site, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And that's a great thing because some people may only be interested in, the fire department or the DPW or whatever it might be.
I'll click forward for a second, because actually
But what we've found is that that there's no one location. There's no one City of Leominster. Find out everything you need to know without overwhelming you. So we started this page just not so long ago, and it's up to 600 or 700 people. But every day, more and more people are signing on, and we're beginning to, people downloading the Recreation Department's brochure. That's what you see there, sort of highlighted. And so, again, we had to kind of make that move because people calling, the feedback was, well, I have to go to the police to find out the police, the fire to fire, DPW to DPW, and I could be all day long looking to find out what's going on. And in reality, if we can just add some of those to one central location and put really important things on there, that would be helpful. And the feedback seems to be that that's the case. They seem happy with that. So we don't want to overwhelm people by putting 10 or 15 things on there a day, but we'll put 2 or 3 things on there per day, and it usually be the more important things that people are looking for.
And actually, it's important to point out all of the events for every single department throughout the city, the school as well, they're all linked to that one particular event page. So if you click on that event page, you can see all of the events throughout the city, and then you can see where they originate. So this will lead into Melissa's, they talk about the community development page.
Sure. I maintain the Leominster Community Development page, which has all of the business news, ribbon cuttings, and events that you can see up there. And those events then are linked to the Leominster page that Nikki maintains. But to get more information about the event and who's going to be there specifically and what time it is and what the admission fee is and where you can get tickets and all that information, that's in Leominster Community Development under those particular events. So if you want the general information and just want to see a calendar and have a really quick overview of what's going on and what the important things are that day, you can do one-stop shopping at the municipal page. And then if you want to dig a little bit deeper and learn more about exactly what's going to be happening at that event, you can link not just to community development, but to any of the other departments that have their events up there.
So these are Facebook?
These are Facebook pages, yes.
Does the city have a Twitter account?
We're going to have Twitter and Instagram. I have them on mine, and I'm trying to get away because everything is on me, like my site, and it's me, and I'm the person that's trying to get this information up all the time, and it's me putting it up. And so I'm trying to get more, and so we don't have as much time to tweet because I'm doing the tweeting, and so I'm trying to get others to kind of pick up more of this so that it's a team of us that are putting the information up, Instagram and Twitter and everything else. But I just can't do it all on my own, and so they've been helping out, and it's really been a big help. So, plus we want people to sort of be able to go to these sites and know that,
I mean, I think they're so very different because I think with Twitter, depending on what the event is or what you're doing, it seems like you can reach a much broader
right.
geographic audience than you would on Facebook, retweeting as opposed to sharing on Facebook.
Right.
So they kind of complement each other.
As I've had this conversation with everyone, you have to be everywhere today. And as an example, 25, 30 years ago, everybody picked up the newspaper. And they read it from the very beginning when it said, sunny tomorrow. That's about all they could tell you is what tomorrow's weather was. And the legal notices and the classifieds and the funnies and the police law, whatever was in that paper, people read it from the beginning to the end. That was the Bible. It's not that way anymore. Not that people don't read the paper, because they do, but information is coming from them to them from a 1,000,001 different places, and we have to be in every one of those spots because we don't know where somebody's, where the other end user is going to be. So if it's the web page, we've got to keep the web page up. If it's Twitter, if it's signs that you see around the city, you see those signs that we're putting up, there's signs, whatever it takes, that's what we have to be. Sometimes it's just leaflets inside City Hall. It's a combination of things, but there's no one magic bullet towards advertising for the pizza crawl or the cannoli fest or any event upstairs. You can hear people up there tonight. So it has to be a wide range of tools in the tool chest, and so we don't count on any one, but we know there are a bunch of people using it, a bunch of different medias, and we have to be there.
And we have to do it correctly, too. I think, if you do these things and you don't do them well or consistent, it's worse than if you don't do it at all and you wait to start. So one thing that's in our plan is to create a hashtag that makes sense for Leominster. So whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, it's searchable. The community can use it. That involves a marketing campaign so that people can actually know what it is and get behind it. But that's all stuff that we have in the plan for the upcoming year. Also Instagram, making sure that the photos are what people want to see, not just random stuff, right? Because we want people to engage with us and view Leominster as savvy with this, as opposed to just like doing it and not knowing what we're doing. So with the Facebook page, a good example of that is we actually got it verified by Facebook as a true municipal site. That was important because as people look for the site, they'll know that the information there is accurate. They verified that we have a government email. When we post like police shares or things from the police department, they know that that's okay. There's a little blue check, and that means that this is a real city site.
Might it make some sense in the future, just an idea that the city spend a little bit of money and bring in, a social media expert, not only for the city, but for local business? Seminars or?
We did. Well, we had somebody as part of the new logo, which you'll see June 1st. But the only problem is it got very expensive. And then we have to look at our budget and say, this is not an expense that, we can afford, or otherwise there goes the whole budget. So they wanted to do basically the same thing, which was to do what we're doing and we're about to do. And so we sort of refrain from that, because anybody that's really good out there that does it the way you want is pretty expensive at this point. And so we held off on that for now, but I can see at some point you're not going to be able to get away without somebody, doing the.
I mean, more just from an informational standpoint, just so people understand it better.
The chamber, we've done some things on social media. We try to help all of the businesses, and again, that's what we try to do. I think we've been involved in so many of these startups and so many of these businesses that we kind of, we don't want to go above, beyond that sort of boundary of telling people, advising them on things. But I think we've been around enough times to get a sense of what's going on. And we sort of go through the verbal checklist. Have you done this? Are you on this? Are you on that? That sort of thing. And what we're finding is businesses now are more savvy. Even the startups have done a lot of, they've been working on their business plan for years before they finally get to that point where they feel comfortable enough to make it to the next level. So we're finding out as we go through the checklist more of the things they've done. And a lot of it is social media. I mean, you really got to know how to use social media to your advantage. And at some point it's going to get overwhelming, because there were very few ads on social media before. Now there are a lot more. But that's, again, things change and you adapt to those changes. But yeah, I think the chamber does a really good job of doing those kind of sessions. New View has done some things on starting a business, and Clark University has that extension that they offer to the chamber in our businesses. So all of those things together, I would have to say yes. I think we do a pretty good job of that. Is there any other slides here?
Is there a coordinated effort with planning? I mean, one of the major issues for years have been, I think because we're a victim of our own success, is housing that has to match up with the labor that workforce is looking for. And it's getting harder and harder for people to be able to find an apartment or buy a house locally, because the costs have just skyrocketed. Is there, I mean, I know the Opportunity Zone is one, the governor's plan on housing is another. Is people working together to try to do that?
Well, I think if you remember, our big issue several years ago, in the middle of the recession, was to take the old mill buildings and get them full.
Right.
And that was a big issue. So they were all just sitting there. We weren't sure what was going to happen. These things are going to burn down, fall in, or whatever. And so we're at the tail end of that. The project on Summer Street is underway. That's housing. City Place is complete. The Piano Factory is complete. Carter Street is underway. Carter Junior High School is underway. And again, as I said, they're underway on Summer Street location right now. And the only thing left after that is Tremaine Street. And other than that, everything is either housing or it's offices or retail or whatever. So for us, the housing part is difficult because, A, we've bought up a lot of land, B, it's very expensive to run a road in. So if you want to run a subdivision in, because of all the new regulations that have been sort of put down, pushed on people, whether it's, and there are 1,000,001, you're talking $400 to $600 a lineal foot to run a road in. So most of the lots in town that are A&R, approval not required, are pretty much built on. So there are still some lots next to the Crossroads building. Those are still permitted. I think they're working on those as we speak to put some newer housing, but that's more the higher end. So I think what you're going to see in town is more sort of the redevelopment part of it all, which is buying 2 or 3 properties, maybe older tenement houses, knocking them down and rebuilding in those areas. But it's just it's supply and demand right now, and there's a big demand and there's not much supply. But as each of these units come online, I mean, I think Carter's going to help, and I think Summer Street will help. And as far as new product, they've done some stuff down on the south side, and that seemed to help, but that's kind of on the high end. So there aren't any more factories to renovate, so those are done. So now it's going to come from, there's one subdivision on Willard Street, but again, that's been on the planning books since probably 7 or 8 years ago. They're finally going to do that one, and then there's just the projects that are out there. The cost to develop those projects is so costly that you could never get your return on your money after you did all the site development part. You couldn't sell the houses for enough money or get enough for each lot. So we work with New View, and we work with a million of different agencies to try to provide the incentives for people to do housing. But at this point, it's going to be redevelopment. It's going to be our key. It's going to be demolition of older style houses with there's a house on Litchfield. It was a single family house. They knocked it down. They'll put 2 to 4 units there. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. There's a site of the old Castle Plastics. I'm not sure whether that'll be commercial, industrial, or housing. But there aren't any large projects other than next to Crossroads, which will be 2 large projects. And that's at least a year or 2 away. So we work with everybody. I mean, there's no question about that. It's just, we're just running out of space in terms of that on zoning.
I know we're not alone. I mean, I didn't even mean to.
No.
I know every community is doing the same thing.
Yes.
There's a real serious situation with workforce being able to live anywhere near the community for
well, people,
the
as they
type
say,
of salary they get.
you drive till you qualify, right? You keep driving until you reach that point where it's like, yeah, I can afford that mortgage, I can afford that condo, I can afford the rent. And remember, there is a huge demand for rentals. A lot of younger people aren't prepared. They don't
That's
want
almost
to.
more of a demand for that than there are
They want a
for
rental.
housing.
They want to own. So down at some of the older, the older apartment, large complexes, say Whitney Carriage and some of those places, are going to be more gravitating from, remember the big demand for 3-bedroom units? Remember that? We went through that whole phase of we don't have enough 3-bedroom. Well, people built 3 bedrooms, but they don't need them anymore. There aren't those families to fill those up, so they're backing off and going to 2s and 1s now.
You still need 3s, though.
Still, but not as many, and so they overbuilt when they built them, so they're going to be backing off on that. That should create, that should fill some demand, but there's 4 or 5, people or families for every 1 unit that's empty. So again, they just move to or travel till they qualify.
And when you look at our current zoning, there really isn't much left. I mean, when I meet with, I work with a 45 Summer Street developer. They would take on more projects, but there's not much. Tremaine Street is definitely, as the mayor was saying, is another option. Summer Street did an H-dip with the state. We worked with them through that process, and we would do more of those. I'm happy to help any developer go through that process. It's just really there's nothing, like we said, unless you go through redevelopment and then they have to do the acquisition cost of the existing, knock it down, and the numbers just don't work. The prices are too high right now. So I feel it is something that we work on. It's something that I find interesting because I worked in that world for 10 years. And I work with Elizabeth, the new planning director, as these things come up, but we're kind of restricted.
Well, remember, we went from a time where we were trying to slow growth, where we had too much of it, and so we put in the growth management plan. And then we went through a recession where people, consolidated families and people living in, basements and garages and everything. And now people are paying $5,000 a month to live in an apartment in Boston. That's the changes that we've been through. But, the other thing is we've preserved land, and that is another big attraction to the city. I have to tell you, it's a huge attraction to the city, knowing that there are parcels of land in the city and places like the farm and open space that will be preserved forever. And that's a big selling feature for people. And real estate people aren't shy about letting people know that Leominster has, if you live here and buy a house here, you have the biggest backyard there is in every section of the city. So, yeah, I mean, who could have predicted this, I guess, down the road? Who could have thought we were going from 500 units a year, and this year we did 37 new houses and a few duplexes and, that kind of thing. So, who could have predicted? But if you remember back in the 90s, that's what people wanted. They wanted controlled development in the city. And the unfortunate part is it creates a shortage, and the economy's good, and that creates part of the problem. But it's not a problem. I think it's a good, it's a good thing. And it certainly keeps the real estate values up. I think we all know that, so.
Yeah, there's just a fear to not have Leominster become a wealthy community so that you don't have the diversity and, how we've been identified for so many years.
Well, I think that's where you find the infill, and we talked about that years ago too, where people just start to buy up 2 and 3 and create some affordable housing, but it will take off the market some of the older 6 and 8 families that just aren't conducive to modern style living anymore. There's no elevators in the building and that sort of thing. That's probably the next wave of thing that will happen. I mean, that makes good sense, and it still allows, working families to stay here and live here, and it's affordable for developers to do as well.
In 2014, in a really nice complex in town, you could get a 1-bedroom apartment for $675. It's now $1,200.
Right. No, that's everywhere.
And there's a waiting list.
Oh, that's what I say. That for every every person looking, every unit we have, there's 5 people looking, and we're mindful of that. But again, there aren't many places left. Driving up and down those areas, we've got a piece of land we're looking at on Pierce Street that the city would like to purchase. But again, the development cost, why they're interested for us is for us to buy it is they're city residents and they would like to keep it open space if they can, and B, the development cost to pick up 12 or 20 units is phenomenal to get into the property and open it up, and all the wetlands, delineations and all the permitting and everything. So you've got some things up on Roach Pond. That's small though. There's nothing really huge that will happen. Again, the 2 biggest projects will be next to Crossroads on Mechanic Street. That'll be the biggest project, for the city. And but there are developers, people here all the time, wanting to know if we have anything available, any place that we can send them, and most of that land is gone.
Anything else, Nikki?
We'll kind of fly through the last few slides, and
Okay.
Obviously you guys know about the rail trail, but important to point out that that's...
We've got about 8 or 9 minutes, if that's
Sure.
okay with you. If you
Of
need more
course.
time, take it.
No, we'll fly right through it. So Twin City Rail Trail, a great economic development opportunity for the city. We work closely with Brixmor, for example, for Water Tower Plaza, for how they can best align with the new rail trail coming through. And so that's something we focus quite a bit on.
And I know I said this last time at the last meeting, but we're working on the road improvements in front of Water Tower Plaza. Just because I know it comes up, it's like, well, are you guys communicating with each other on both of the projects? So the rail trail is integrated, not the same engineers, but 2 different engineers working on the project, on one for one, one for the other, are working together so that we don't end. So we're mindful of each other's projects, and we can blend them in so that there isn't some misalignment somewhere where it's like, how did you get here? Well, we didn't know, we weren't working with them on that project, and
We've
vice
set
versa.
up meetings with every business that's affected by either project along the route to make sure that we can address their concerns. And we've done that. They've MassDOT, GPI, the engineer for the Route 12 project, as well as Stantec, was the engineer for the Twin City Rail Trail project, have been fantastic meeting with these businesses and making as many accommodations as they can. Obviously, with the rail trail having federal funds, the accommodations are a little bit different. But anything that we can do, everyone's been great about doing. And a lot of the businesses are really excited. They feel like this will be a good opportunity for them to generate some more business.
Just a few hiccups with the residents.
Yes.
In the original dialogue that we had regarding the rail trail, there was a lot of support for it, but there was also concern regarding privacy,
Yes.
especially down near the Doyle Field area.
Yeah, we actually have a walk scheduled. I believe it's next week on Thursday. The representative from MassDOT is going to come out. We're going to walk the parcels along the North Main and the Doyle Field area because there's been requests for privacy fences, which they normally don't do. but they will consider because of the nature of those locations. So we're going to do site walks and do the best that they can to address those concerns.
I'd like
So-
to attend that walk if I can.
Okay, sure.
I'll be
Yeah,
available.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes people say, well, where's all the high-tech businesses? How come you don't have them? There's a lot of high-tech going on in Leominster businesses, believe me. And so we pointed out a couple of the different companies here who are using either the advanced robotics, or automation in their business, and we just highlighted a few. And if you go down to IMA as an example, IMA makes the machines that are used to bottle medicines. So whether it be liquid products, now they do food products, but they are probably the lead internationally. They probably make the most precise machines. They probably make the fastest machines. So these aren't making the pharmaceuticals. They're making the machines that bottle them or package them. They're now into the food industry. So if you go in and you find those, everything comes in a pouch today, from tuna fish to cat food to yogurt to everything. They make the machines that make those, and that will actually, sort of put them together and then package them. And it's in the industry of pharmaceuticals, everything has to be accounted for and everything has to be accurate, but it also has to be fast. And IMA builds, I would say, 90% of the machine that are made there. And these are I've seen vitamin companies that have built machines built there over $1 million easy. And every single piece, most of those pieces of the machine aren't something you can just order from somewhere. They have to be fabricated, and that fabrication is done right inside that building. And that's just an example. International Rectifier making switching and devices, on the high end of the spectrum in terms of spaceships and submarines and planes and all of that. I mean, that's the high end of high end. And so we see more of it. I know that people might not know that some of these businesses exist in town unless somebody lives there, but a lot of these people come from outside, whether the engineers that come here, but come from the outside and might even come from out of state every day to work in these facilities. But the highest growing thing that I think we all see is the emergence of the work at home. People that work from home, and those could be engineers, high-tech people. It's amazing the people that we see who are have the ability to both work at home and at the office every so often, who have to go in. But that's just off the charts, and people come in all the time in the clerk's office to get that, starting a business from their home, and you can't even imagine the sorts of things that, people are doing, right from their homes.
Mayor, we went through a very arduous process a few years ago on the zoning, and when it came to fruition, we all understood that it's a working document.
Right.
And we also understood that there would be things that will be coming down the road, as you're alluding to, that are not in that zoning.
Right.
So we want to make sure that from a friendly point of view, if there's anything that needs to be amended to be able to accommodate a proposal, I think it would be great to send it down to the council.
Yeah, we have some things that'll be coming up that we think we could adapt and change to kind of modify things that we didn't sort of predict that are always going to happen. I mean, that's just, everything's changing so quickly that it's, really, for us, we want to make sure we don't bring somebody to a site and say, oh, no, I'm sorry, the zoning doesn't allow you to come here, when in fact it really does fit.
Right. Thank you.
So one key point on this is that International Rectifier, for example, is almost always hiring, and they will take someone with absolutely no job experience in that industry, train them, help them get an education, and keep them for the long term. And touring that company was amazing. Touring some of these companies is just amazing to see what they do and see the number of jobs that are available and the people that's lives have been positively impacted by working for these companies. It's a much different view of manufacturing than what I ever thought manufacturing was before I, worked here and walked through some of these companies. The next slide.
We're looking at about 2 to 3 ribbon cuttings a month. This is the past year of ribbon cuttings from April 1st of last year to just this last week. There's quite a few up there, and it's a really exciting time. We've talked about that. It's important in their business venture to be out there and get a ribbon cutting. We have some pictures from some of the ribbon cuttings. We also have events all year that these businesses participate in. They're partners with us on these events. They sponsor them, they support them, they volunteer at them, they come and set up tables at them. We support them through the events, they support the events. It's a really great partnership, and I think that we both help each other with that, and the events wouldn't be as successful without them. And we like to think that we help them by having them at the events and getting them out there and in front of people. And this list, just one thing I'd like to point out is that we've added quite a few events in the last 3 years, and we've added those events intentionally and with businesses in mind. Most recently, the pizza crawl took something that we hear a lot, oh, another pizza place in town. Well, these pizza places are here because the residents support them.
Because people buy pizza.
Everyone eats pizza. And we had this event, and we took what's sometimes a little bit of a joking complaint and turned it into a really positive event that got people out into the community and into these different pizza shops. So all the ones with asterisks are ones that have been added in the last 3 years, and we're going to continue adding them as we see them make sense and continue to support the businesses through those events. Just some more celebrations that we've done. We're not just doing ribbon cuttings, we're also celebrating businesses' anniversaries as they're hitting their first year or their 40th or their 55th. There's a lot of things to celebrate at these small businesses. We're happy to be a part of it, and we love getting out there and continuing to get the word out. And we hope that they're all around a long time, that we're doing a lot of 40 and 55-year celebrations for these businesses.
And there you go.
There we go.
I
Thank
think
you
that's
all
a
for your
pretty much
time.
a
Thank you, it's awesome.
little
Thank you.
under an hour summary. Thanks for listening, but
If I
hopefully,
may, if there's any councils that have
Yes.
any questions or comments, make some if you haven't had a
Yeah,
chance. Go
I
ahead,
just want to make a
please.
comment that, it is statewide. The Councilors Association, through a survey, is having registration and a regional meeting at the MGM in Springfield by that company to give a tour of the facility. And the topic is State of Economic Development in Massachusetts Cities. And it's the new Secretary, Michael Keneally, will be the speaker.
he's been
So-
here. This is his first stop after he took his new position. This is his first stop.
Yep.
We took him for the tour.
Yep. So that'll show the economic development in Springfield when we look at the casino.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor?
Just real quick on the brochure, the guide, really well done. Particularly the marijuana section, which I thought really helpful for people because it confuses the heck out of them. I think that's really well done. And just one small little tiny thing, nothing that you have to, if you ever revise it, on the demolition, which is the next to the last page, you should probably mention the historic demolition delay ordinance as well. Minor point, but if you do revise it, I would probably add that to the equation. But
That's a
really
good point. Thank you.
Great piece.
Thank you. Anything else? Closing remarks, you all set?
Yeah, no, thanks. And hopefully that answers a lot of the questions that you get asked about sort of what's
Right.
happening in town. I know people ask you, like, what's going on in the Shaws, and heard the Christmas tree shops come in, and Whole Foods, and you hear all these things, and at least now there are sometimes we don't know what's happening. There are deals going on behind the scenes that, but I think we have a good enough rapport that when they feel comfortable, they will let us know. But in the meantime, it's kind of fun to go back and
The
forth.
poor
with.
agent at Brixmor gets like 3 emails from me a week where I'm like, can you tell me if Shaw's is going to become Whole Foods or not?
Yeah, we
and he's
hear
like,
all the
Nikki,
same
I
things you
promise
hear.
I will call you the moment we sign a lease.
Most
So,
importantly, shop local. Those businesses really depend on you. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This committee meeting that was scheduled for 6:15. C-59, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the City Council vote to authorize the attached Electric Avenue easement. Are there members of the planning board that are supposed to be here or no? They just presented that? Okay. Councilor Bedanza, do you have any comments on that?
Can we get back all the referrals on this?
No. So I would think recommendation's gonna be further time because we don't have all that.
I did have an opportunity to speak to one of
That was a nice
their
presentation.
staff about this earlier today, and it's not, there's not a big time push on it, so further time is okay.
Okay, the recommendation's gonna be further time, so we'll leave the, further time.
Is it the only thing they have? Okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing, 38-19, National Grid and Verizon to relocate one jointly owned pole on Wheeler Street, beginning at a point approximately 102 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Lancaster Street and continuing approximately 20 feet in the northwest direction. National Grid to relocate pole number 1, 35 feet closer to Lancaster Street to allow for a customer to install a new driveway. I know
Good evening. Mark Tapley here from National Grid. So this is the same terminology as last time when we had the continuation. I know I had submitted to at least my department at work that was supposed to forward the information along, get the new document for us to get it on here, and I don't know if there was a confusion somewhere or what happened, but I did bring the updated drawings if you needed
We
to
have
see them.
something.
You do have the newer
We
one?
do.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because when I looked at my paperwork before I came in this afternoon, I saw that it was still stated as the older stuff. But we will be relocating the pole. It's going to be 75 feet from the center line of Lancaster Street down Wheeler Street, which is 50 feet from the edge of Lancaster Street, and then 20 feet from the center line of Wheeler Street. And this is to make room for a driveway that a customer is looking to put in.
All right, that was my question. I did ride by there. And I have a concern because is that driveway gonna go through to the other business?
I don't have any control over what the business owner does with his driveway. They only asked us to move the pole.
Well, where did the request come from? The homeowner in that house, or is it the business? in
So
back?
I just get a work request that says, a public request from homeowner to move pole so they can put a driveway in. So we don't see any of
So
their
you're not-
document. We have nothing to do with any of their permits or any of that stuff. We just get asked to move the pole, we do the work request, and we move forward from that point. So the pole would be moved, so there's a big tree that's right in that person's property. It would be moved in front of that tree, so it'd be,
I really have a concern with that because ultimately, whatever's gonna happen with that building, there could be a lot of traffic coming from that building going onto Wheeler Street. Because the driveway that goes to that house, you look to where the pole is that you wanna move because of it, the driveway to that house is open right to, the building on, what is it, can't think of the name of the street, on the corner, Donato's old place.
Johnson Street.
Yeah. So, there's, I think there's some questions that need to be answered, because that could really develop a lot of traffic, and I think that could be an issue. And I don't know if there's an easement on that property from the business. I don't expect you
Yeah.
to know that. But when I looked at it, I was very concerned about, it was clearly the pole being moved to have the driveway come out. Right now, it goes in, and where they park their cars is really where that driveway is gonna be. So it has some concern there for me. So if there's not a time element on that, I would like to talk about further time on that. I know you probably.
so I don't know, what would you need from National Grid
Well,
on this?
probably
Because
nothing. I think what the suggestion would be is we need the homeowner to step up.
Right.
and let us know why they're requesting it. So you're just doing your job, we understand
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's not anything that I need from you. What
Okay.
what we do need to find out is what the plan is. And, you know, again, if it holds you up, that's not something that we can deal with, but it could present a serious issue there.
Correct. I just need to make sure that I have the right information to bring back to National Grid tomorrow, because I'm going to get the questions
Well,
of
the
what do we need to do?
the
And if there's
information-
nothing that we need to do, then it's just on the
There's nothing
homeowner.
nothing
then
that you can
that's
do.
okay.
There's
But I just
nothing
need
for you to do right now.
Okay.
The question is that we're gonna give it further time until we can find out from the homeowner or the business what the plan is for that property.
Okay.
Oh.
It's hers.
Let me go to public service first. Anybody from Council Cormier?
I went over and looked at that area myself, and it's confusing. And I don't know I don't think we have the new drawings.
We don't have the plan.
The clerk has it.
Okay.
We don't have a copy, she
I
does have it on.
I brought 5 copies with me if you'd
If you
like
want
to
to
see
pass
them.
those out, we appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That would be great, because
I wanted to make sure that you guys had them if you needed them.
when I went by, I need a point of reference. I need to be able to look at it there, because
Right.
I tried to, count it out stepping out, and I agree with you. I think that is gonna be a tough spot over
that's what
there.
it's gonna end up being.
Yeah, and I think we need to see exactly where it's gonna go.
Okay. We'll make more copies for the rest of the council, don't worry about that. Do you have this right here? Okay, so we're just getting this for the first time. There's an extra copy.
Yeah, it's not a small thing. If that's gonna be a driveway that connects the next road, Wheeler Street isn't very heavily traveled right now, and it could create a lot of traffic there. So the homeowners in that area need to know what the ultimate plan is. Again, it's not your responsibility. And I will reach out to the neighbors and find out what the plan is there. And the bigger question is who's asking for the pole change, moving the pole, because will determine what the ultimate use is, I'm sure.
Okay.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr? Yeah.
My question had to do with the plan. I was looking for the plan and I didn't see it, so, thank you.
Any other, Councilor Cormier?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Tapley, because he has been here, and he has been available, and he's been very good as far as keeping us in the loop. So, Mr. Tapley, I wanted to say thank you, and thank you for doing this. It makes things much easier for us, and we
You're
do
very welcome.
appreciate you coming down here.
It's pretty difficult because that's not his responsibility, so he doesn't have the answers we need. Council, no. Anybody else? Any other council have any questions? If not, I'll go to the public. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak in support of this petition? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? For the third time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Hearing none for the last time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? If not, any other councilors have any questions or comments?
The only thing I would suggest, Counselor, is that the clerk can notify the homeowner on your behalf, and then they're gonna have the homeowner deal directly with you from this point forward for the next time we get together, all right? Okay, thank you.
All right. So the recommendation is to leave the hearing open.
When it finally comes to a vote, we'll move it to the front of the calendar in consideration of your genuine kindness.
Thank you.
We know
Your
you always
patience.
get caught in the middle between Verizon and the homeowners, so it's a difficult spot to be in. We get that. All right, 47-19, public hearing, National Grid to install one singular owned pole on Jitech Drive, beginning at a point approximately 570 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and continuing approximately plus or minus 15 feet in a southwest direction. National Grid to install one pole between poles 10 and 11 for a customer's primary conductor, then a new transformer pad to upgrade service. you want to speak to that? I drove by there too. so-
Certainly. So for this particular one, there is a pole that is currently on the corner of the lot near where we would like to go. But that pole, the transformer bank that is up there, will be being removed for us to put in what's called a recloser. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but that's basically works as a programmable fuse as a protection device for everything else further down that stream. And it requires 3 different devices on 3 separate poles, so we can't put something between. So we're going to be placing a pole about 30 feet before that pole to run a riser for the primary cable to go underground to their new transformer.
Yeah, it was pretty evident when I went by there. It's just going to be right in the middle of the other 2 poles.
Yep, that's pretty much what it is, and we're going to have just the riser to bring the cable underground, go down the side of the building, and the transformer is going to be about halfway down the building.
Okay, thank you. Any public service councilors wish to comment? Any other councilors have any questions or comments? If not, we'll go to the public.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this petition? Yes, sir. Would you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please?
Okay, I'm Hector Echanis. I represent EasyPack, the interested party, and we're requesting this new service to consolidate our facilities on Jitech Drive, which is where we own 2 buildings and are now renting a 3rd. We need this service to consolidate facility we're renting right now on Florence Street from where we're getting asked to leave because the rent is coming near conclusion, and we're doing this also for growth. So we'd very much like to have this, and we're actually in dire need to get it soon.
Thank you. Would you have a business card that you could
Yep.
present to the clerk so that she has the information? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak in support? For the final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Again, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? For the 3rd and final time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? If not, I declare the public hearing closed.
Okay, fine. Thank you. We're going to open the meeting in a minute, and then I'll ask for a recess, and then we'll have the interview that was supposed to take place at 6:50, followed with the public forum for the audience, okay? City Council for April 8th is now in session. Please stand and join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're now going to begin with the roll call vote of the honorable members of the council, beginning with Councilor Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Ottinger.
Present.
Councilor Bonanza. Present. Councilor Feckley.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
7 members are present this evening. Does the chairwoman of records have a report?
I do, Mr. President. I have the minutes of the City Council meeting of March 25th, 2019, and I'm going to defer to Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, who indicates she has some corrections.
Sure.
Thank you. I do. I have a couple of typos and then something that just needs clarification, so I'm happy just to submit these to the clerk for you to make the changes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else on that?
No, with those changes, I find them to be in order and ask that they be placed on file.
Thank you. Any questions? So moved. Do I have a motion for a recess? Council Cormier, seconded. Council Shalfo Zephyr. Thank you. We're now going to get to the interview. And this will be before the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Okay, do we have Anthony McAuliffe in the audience? Anthony, you want to come up? Come around. You might want to sit right in that corner because I think everything's all hooked up there, Anthony. Okay, Anthony. Well, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Actually, at the last meeting, we approved your nomination to this position because we had already received some recommendations regarding you, one from Mr. Coggins, and so we were, Mr. LeBlanc, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the, and so we were confident that, we also had your resume, that you were, qualified. But we still would like, wanted to meet you, given the opportunity, so that you can, kind of let us know what your background is a little bit for the public, and what you feel as though you can contribute to the Office of Emergency Management. So like I said, we do have your resume, and it's extensive as far as the needs of an EMT unit. You are an emergency medical technician.
Yes.
You have served in the military. Thank you for your service, 10 years in the U.S. Army.
Yes, ma'am.
And leaving as a staff sergeant. My father reached that rank too, so.
Took Dottie Murphy for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So just a little bit about yourself and what you will be doing at the Emergency Management Office.
Like I said, I've been in the military for 10 years. I have extensive background in trauma and things like that. And I've also done stuff with
That's on, if you don't mind.
This one?
using that, that'd be great.
Perfect. Yeah, so I've 10 years with the Army, 4 years in MP, 6 as a medic with the 160th SOAR. I have a degree in social work. I've done a lot of different volunteer work with Team Rubicon, some stuff with the Tennessee State Guard, in regards to disaster management, search and rescue, things like that. I'm an ultra marathoner. I enjoy being outside. I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy helping people. Being an EMT is pretty good job. It'd be better if I was a paramedic, but the way it goes. But I think I can provide my unique skill set to the Office of Emergency Management in their mission, however I can, in any way that I can. Just with my background and my leadership positions and my skills in the medical field and trauma, I know a lot about forming operations, setting up operations. I know all about the incident management system, things like that. So I think that, with my skill set, I can, add more, to the Office of Emergency Management and help them to become greater, better, stronger force within the city. And I'm new to the city. I just moved here in November. My whole family's from this area. I grew up in Air Groton. But yeah, my whole family's around here. I just moved here. And I was like, oh, hey, Office of Emergency Management. Seems like a good idea. I love volunteering. It's just rewarding, giving back, things like that.
For the public, what you would be doing would be you'd be on call basically for any kind of emergency assistance that they would need, but also would you be partaking in like drills or training at the actual location from time to time?
As far as
understand it?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know about drilling, things like that. I know there's meetings and stuff that I'll attend. I know that if there is a disaster of any kind, that they will be activated for the city. And as far as I know, there are specific meetings, trainings that I'll have to attend, and things that we'll have to lead to help the police and the fire to be prepared for any natural disasters, things like that, homeland security, stuff like that, working with state police. The training center down there at the office is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of stuff down there. Coast Guard Auxiliary is down there. I'm also a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary,
Right, I
too.
noticed that. Yeah. You like to serve your country.
I do, yeah. I said I should rejoin the Army, but, so as far as I know, again, I have very basic knowledge of what is exactly expected of me there. I kind of just went there and interviewed a couple months ago and kind of got like a short rundown of what they've done, showed the facility. Haven't really been given any information on what to do, but I understand what is expected and what could potentially happen and what is required of me, as I've done it with like Team Rubicon. I've gone to Puerto Rico, I've gone to Texas, I've gone to the hurricanes for disaster relief.
okay.
Yeah, so I've done
You've seen
those.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Which,
All right.
yeah, it's pretty bad. It's worse overseas, and I've been to Iraq, Afghanistan. It's pretty rough, but yeah.
Wow.
So as far as I know, I'll attend meetings, pay dues, and work, in hand in hand with the city and the Public Works Department and the police and fire in any kind of disaster situation.
Okay. Well, we're lucky to have you. So really, really appreciate your
Yeah, it was
willingness
nice.
to do that. So I'm going to ask if the other member of Ways and Means has any questions. Councilor Frida, questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions. We're very lucky to have someone with their qualifications apply. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other councilors have any questions or comments?
Just thank you very
President
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
You're more than capable of being involved with that program. We appreciate your talents and everything you're going to share with them, and also thank you for your service to the country.
Any other councilors? So Anthony, your resume was so impressive that even without meeting you, we voted unanimously to appoint you. So I think we don't need to do another vote, because certainly that would happen again, I'm sure, with bells on. And we really appreciate, like I said, your willingness to volunteer, and welcome to Leominster. And again, thank you for your service and your continued service. And I don't know if the assistant clerk need to, TD, he hasn't been sworn in yet? Okay, so the assistant city clerk will be swearing you in tonight to your new position, all right?
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All
I
right,
appreciate
thanks
this
for coming.
opportunity.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. We're now going to open the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on any matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. We don't have anyone that has signed up. Would anyone like to come to the microphone and address the council? Second call. Third and final call. If not, the public forum is closed. We're now going to go right into session. We're going to begin with communications from the mayor, beginning with appointments.
A measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Vicki Briggs to the Cultural Commission, term to expire 4/15/2022.
If there's no objection, we'll do these in block. Please continue.
A measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Richard Dondero to the Board of Assessors, term to expire 4/15/2022.
The appointments are referred to the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask the city clerk to invite Ms. Briggs and Mr. Dondero to the next meeting for an interview.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for the cough.
That's okay. Regular course. Thank you.
Regular court.
We now have orders beginning with communications 66.
C66, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $162,800 to the Cemetery Capital Outlay Expense Account, same amount to be transferred from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Income Account.
Communication 66 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course on communication 66. Thank you. We now move on to petitions, beginning with petition 51-19.
51-19, Christopher Rivard, requests a transient vendor's license for the sale of flowers and plants.
51-19 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course.
Thank you. We now refer, so regular course on 51-19. We'll now move to 52-19.
52-19, Sterling Jewelers, Inc., renew the second-hand dealer's license for K Jewelers, number 1285, located at 100 Commercial Road.
Petition 52-19 again is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, first time on the calendar, regular course.
Thank you. If there's no objection, Madam Chairman, can we take 51 and 52 and refer them to the Police Department and also the Treasurer's Office?
Is that going to be done
They've been
automatically?
approved already.
Yeah.
When do we get that?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's their new process.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right.
Done
That's
away with the
before
one-
they go on
that
the
step.
agenda. I like that. Okay. So, great. Thank you. Regular course. We now move on to matters before the City Council. We have City Leominster Financial Report. Before I do that, I want to move to petition 47-19. Out of respect to the petitioner who's in the audience on public service, is the chairwoman ready to report?
You had looked up, you would have seen that I was going to ask you to do the same thing. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Thank you.
(47-19) is National Grid. Install a one singularly owned pole on Chi-Tech Drive, beginning at a point approximately 570 feet northwest to the center line of the intersection of Central Street, and continuing approximately plus or minus 15 feet in a southwest direction. National Grid to install one pole between poles 10 and 11 for a customer's primary conductor to the new transformer pad to upgrade service. I will go to other members of my committee.
I yield the floor to Councilor Ottinger, the clerk.
Just one question that I don't understand is, this is, as I understand it, is to upgrade the manufacturing facility that will be relocated there?
I yield the floor back to the chair.
I believe so. We have, according to what was described earlier, there's, did you have a drawing? for that
Yeah, I
as
have the
well?
drawing, and they picked up, they've added an additional building next to where they already exist, and they need the extra power for the more manufacturing?
I'm assuming that's what it is, yes.
Okay,
Looks like a go.
okay.
Okay. Third member, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I'm sorry, did we have a recommendation?
Well,
I'm in support of it.
Support,
I'm
okay,
in
thank you.
support
All
support of it, yes.
I yield the floor back to the chairwoman for qualification.
Thank you, Mr. President. The recommendation from the Public Service Committee is unanimous to approve the petition.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant 47-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ottinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall record yea by a vote of 7-0. 47-19 has been granted. Thank you, gentlemen. We now move back to the financial piece. We have Communication 53.
Communication, well, you want the
Before you
report
do that first, sure.
Okay.
Up to you.
So the City of Leominster's financial report, we began the fiscal year July 1 with a balance in the stabilization account of $15,113,865. During the course of the year to date, we've added $4,743,264 in interest transfers back in. Through the date, if we approve all of the communications before us this evening, we will have spent $4,126,438, leaving a balance in the stabilization account of $15,730,691.
Thank you very much. We now move on to Communication 53. You ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-53, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $22,664 to the general fund, various salary and wages account as listed, same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. This is related to the settlement with the middle managers union. I've been asked to request further time on this. We do have the breakdown on the expenses, but we don't have the contract. Contract is just about finalized, and we should have it for our next meeting. So the recommendation this evening on C-53 would be further time, Mr. President. Asked to check with Councilor Cormier.
I yield the floor to Councilor Cormier.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Further time, correct?
The unanimous recommendation of finance on C-53 is further time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on Communication 53. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 7-0. Further time has been awarded to Communication 53. Thank you. We'll now move on to Communication 62. Are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-62, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $30,000 to the sanitation and drainage expense account, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is related to engineering work at Burridge and Mascoma Avenue. They're doing a drainage study there. The proposed scope of work includes updated drainage improvement study, included updating the modeling to utilize the stormwater management tool, updating the design alternatives, and providing the city with alternatives to improve drainage in the area. and conducting a public meeting and city staff meetings to formulate a final plan or report. This is a very difficult situation for the neighborhood and of some long-standing, and it would be appropriate, in my view, to proceed with this. I'd ask you to check with my committee member.
Thank you. I yield the floor to the clerk. Councilor Cormier.
I'd agree with that recommendation.
Thank you. Please requalify.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-62.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant Communications 62. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? I'll begin with Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yep, thank you very much. I just want to say that this is a long time coming. It's been a real mess for a long time. Has caused people to really incur expenses, significant expense in trying to fix the drainage problem in their own particular location. So I'm really happy to see this, and I'm very glad to support it tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Feckley.
As the Ward 1 councilor, I can't be happier that this is coming across our desks. And hopefully, the end result will be that many, many people in that area are going to be getting some relief from, lost sleep every night before it rains and, just other damage to their property. So I thank the mayor and DPW for starting this and on our way, hopefully, to big things for them.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation to grant, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0. Communication 62 is granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Order that the sum of $30,000 be transferred to the sanitation and drainage expense account. Same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, sir, that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 63. Are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-63, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $475,000 to the sidewalk expense account. Same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is in relative to the sidewalk program for this summer. There's a letter from the Director of Public Works, Mr. Racine, to the Mayor. The Leominster Department of Public Works respectfully requests an appropriation of $475,000 to the sidewalk and curbing account. Sidewalk and curbing account, including the Gallagher stairs, which we all know is a significant problem. Description of the work is the sidewalk contract will include George Street, Bartlett Street, Whitney Street, Mill Street, West Street, as I said, Gallagher Building stairway, and walkway, and 23 new accessible ramps in the downtown. It would be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-63, and I would ask you to check with the other member of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, please requalify.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-63.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0. The communication is granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Order that the sum of $475,000 be transferred to sidewalk expense account. Same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any final comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0. The order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 64. Are you ready to report?
Yes, C-64, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation $85,000 to the cemetery capital outlay expense account. Same to be transferred from the cemetery perpetual care income account. This relates to work to be done on the Hawes Chapel roof. Apparently it is collapsing. It needs replacement. According to the Director of Public Works, the roof structure is in disrepair. It is missing several roof slates. The framing structure is also rotted and needs to be replaced. It is in danger as it may pull away and collapse if not addressed. We have a quote for $85,000 for the repair. So the recommendation, or my recommendation, is to grant C-64. The money, as I indicated, is coming from the perpetual care account. And I'd ask you to check with the other member of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Thank you. Please requalify.
Yes, Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-64.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Frida?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Through the chair, can we get an accounting of all the money that's been spent on that chapel? I mean, a few years back, we had a major discussion on this council when it was requested to put money into it. It was being used as a storage shed at the time. We put a lot of money in. The idea was that it was going to be used for services.
Yeah.
The funeral directors had a large concern about that because it was taking business away from them. And I don't think we've used it for very many services that I'm aware of. So I'd really like to get an accounting of how much money we put into it. And
Yeah, it's a good point, and as you can see, based on C-66, which is not before us this evening, but there's a whole lot of additional expenses connected with the cemetery that are coming down. There's a lot of deferred maintenance there, not just with this chapel, but with other things. So it's a good part of the general discussion. I'll ask to get some additional information on the chapel itself, and I would ask also to get updates, if we could, through the clerk on the sale of lots account and the perpetual care account, so what we know what the precise balances of those accounts are. I know there's a substantial amount of money in both of them, and we can afford to do this, and it would be my position that we should do it.
Thank you. Councilor Frida?
is there a time? I'm sure there's a time element because it's in poor shape. But I'd like to see further time, quite honestly, and getting an accounting of this before we see what kind of roof that we're going to put on there.
Well, while I respect your position, I'm concerned. I did have a chance to talk to the director this afternoon about this problem, and it is a significant risk, and I'd like to see it addressed as soon as possible.
Councilor Frida, you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on the floor? The recommendation is to grant Communication 64. All those in favor, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 6-1, Communication 64 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $85,000 be appropriated to the cemetery capital outlay expense account, same to be transferred from the cemetery perpetual care income account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard that recommendation read. Are there any final comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed?
Yay.
By a vote of 6-1, Communication 64, the order has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to Communication 66. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-66, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $30,000 to the highway labor account, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is in connection with adding 2 new laborer positions at the Department of Public Works. There's a letter from the director, Mr. Racine, to the mayor dated March 7th. Dear Mayor, the Leominster Department of Public Works requests a supplemental appropriation of $29,604 to the highway regular labor account. This includes funds to cover the city-paid portion of possible medical insurance coverage. The Leominster Department of Public Works respectfully requests an appropriation to hire 2 W-1 position laborers to add to our workforce. These funds will add the ability for us to hire new people from April 1st to June 30th. With the new budget on July 1st, we are proposing to have these positions as full-time labor force. These positions will maintain trash, trimming, weed whacking, mowing, and other related duties to free up some of our guys to do other things. With the new OSHA regulations, these employees are required to maintain training and safety areas. The city has been faced with increasing workloads, and we are currently at a 38-man crew. These 2 new positions will help us with many challenges we face daily. We would be glad to answer any questions or provide additional information that might be deemed necessary. Sincerely, Raymond Racine. Again, I did have a chance to speak to the director this afternoon. They are sort of the department that's asked to do more with less. They do the impossible really sometimes, and I am strongly supportive of giving them some more resources. I think it's a great investment in the city, and I'd ask you to check with my other member of the.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to the clerk, Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
Thank you. Please requalify.
Yes, Mr. President, unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-66.
Council, so the recommendation read to grant Communication 66. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7 to nothing, the communication has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $30,000 be appropriated to the highway labor account, same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 7 to nothing, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 59 under Legal Affairs. And again, Mr. Chairman, thank you and your committee for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
We have Councilor Frida tonight acting as the committee chair. Are you ready to report on Communication 59?
I am, Mr. President. C-59, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the City Council vote to authorize the attached Electric Avenue easement. As you heard, we had a Legal Affairs Subcommittee meeting earlier this evening, and not all referrals are back, so the recommendation, and I'll go to the other member of the committee, just to be sure, the recommendation would be to further time.
Thank you. I yield the floor to Councilor Bonanza.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you. There's no hearing that's open on this, correct?
Right.
This is just in committee right now, looking for the final recommendations, and you're good?
I
Okay,
believe
good.
so, yep,
So the recommendation, again, further time?
yes.
Thank you. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation for further time, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7 to nothing, Communication 59 has been given further time. Thank you. We now move on to Public Service, Councilor. Beginning with 38-19, are you ready to report?
I am. Public Service, 38-19, National Grid and Verizon, to relocate one jointly owned pole on Wheeler Street, beginning at a point approximately 102 feet northeast of the center line, the intersection of Lancaster Street, and continued approximately 20 feet in a northwest direction. National Grid to relocate pole number 10, number 1, 10 feet closer to Lancaster Street to allow for a customer to install the new driveway. We had a public hearing this evening. There's some questions that are still pending. So the recommendation, I believe, will be at further time.
Okay, thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation for further time on 38-19, and the public hearing has remained open. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7 to nothing, further time has been awarded to 38-19. Thank you. We'll now move on to Ways and Means and Veterans Affairs, beginning with Communication 58. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-58, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Request a letter of support from the Leominster City Council for the Safe Routes to Schools program. The mayor had submitted a letter to us indicating that he's asking for our support for the city's application to the Safe Routes to Schools program. This program provides funding to communities for sidewalk and roadway improvements surrounding schools. With the high number of children that walk to school in the area of Viscoid Avenue, the city has submitted an application for funds to replace and add sidewalks from Mechanic Street at Viscoid to Lancaster Street at Viscoid. In addition, these funds will repair the entrance walkway to the school and signage at crossing areas. The total grant is $210,000. This is a two-step process. The city has submitted the application and has been selected to advance for funding by the state. Step 2 is a formal endorsement of the project from the superintendent and the city council. Mr. President, I believe that the city council should support this project, and I will go to the member of my committee.
Thank you. I yield the floor to Councilor Frida.
I support this.
Okay, good. Requalify, please.
Yes, we have a unanimous recommendation to support the application, a formal endorsement for the project of Safe Routes to Schools program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, sir, the recommendation read for the endorsement and passing of Communication 58. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, we're going to do a roll call vote on this, beginning with Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Oettinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. Communication 58 has been granted. Thank you. We now move on to 40-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Actually, if there's no objection, we can do 40-19 through and including 49-19 in block.
Through which one again?
4019 through and including 4919 are all secondhand dealer
Okay, good.
license
All right.
requests.
All right, so if there's no objection, we'll take 40-19 through 49-19 in block. Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Thank you very much. I will be abstaining from 42-19, as I'm the petitioner.
Absolutely, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Duly noted, thank you. Madam Chair, do you have a recommendation?
I do. Do you want me to read them all?
You have to.
Yes, okay. So 4019, John Andre Zajon, renew the secondhand dealer's license for George's Fine Jewelers, Inc., located at 255 North Street. 4119, John Andre Zajon, review the secondhand dealer's license for House of Relics, located at 1292 Main Street. 4219, Susan Shalfo Zephyr, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Ginny's Helping Hand, Inc., located at 52 Mechanic Street. 4319, Roger Cormier, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Crown Jewelers, located at 12 Lindell Ave. 4419, Fred R. Tousignan, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Fred's Auction, located at 28 Spruce Street. 4519, Paul F. Rouleau, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Protect Solutions, located at 345 Central Street. 4619, Diane P. Amadon, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Upscale Consignment, located at 875 Miriam Ave, Suite 131. 4819, GameStop, Inc., renew the secondhand dealer's license for GameStop Store number 1485, located at 100 Commercial Road. 4919, GameStop, Inc., renew the secondhand dealer's license for GameStop Store number 3594, located at 26 Orchard Hill Park Drive. Mr. President, we already have our recommendations from the police and the treasurers. I believe they're all clear. So my recommendation would be to grant the renewal of secondhand dealer's license for 4019 through and including 4919, and I will go to my committee.
Thank you. Council Frida?
I agree.
Thank you. Please requalify.
We have a unanimous recommendation to grant the secondhand dealer's licenses for 4019 through and including 4919.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to grant petitions 40-19 in block through 49-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Cormier.
I have one question I'm looking for at the application 44-19. I believe we just may have a misprint on the address. On his application, it's 38 Spruce Street, and on our form, we have 28 Spruce Street, and he also includes 92 Pleasant Street in Leominster, which is not included on the agenda.
I'm going to yield the floor to the chairwoman of Ways and Means for an amendment.
Yes. Okay, so let me
Thank you.
find.
Okay, hold on one second. I yield the floor to the clerk.
Please don't include Pleasant Street because it's a warehouse, so there's nothing that actually gets sold or bought as
Okay.
secondhand items. I had a conversation with him about that to ensure
Okay.
that's what it was.
Okay, so we're just going to amend the address on Spruce,
Okay, so.
which is significant.
Right, so we do need to make an amendment on 4419. The establishment address on the agenda reads 28, however, on the application, it is 38 Spruce Street. So we would change that to Fred R. Tousignan, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Fred's Auction, located at 38 Spruce Street.
Thank you. That is a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Council Shalfo Zephyr. All those in favor, any questions or comments on the floor? All those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, it has been noted, and also, it's a great catch, Council Cormier.
Yeah.
We are now dealing with the amended version. Madam Chair, you ready to report?
I am. 4419, Fred R. Tousignan, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Fred's Auction, located at 38 Spruce Street. My recommendation would be
You're going to keep reading right through. Oh, did we finish that?
Yeah.
We did,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're good?
Yeah.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're doing these in block. All right, are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0. 40-19 through 49-19 they've been granted in block. Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Excuse me. Through the chair, the 4219 would really be a 6-0 vote because I was abstaining from
I'm
that.
sorry, my
That's okay.
fault. Yeah,
Good, thank
okay,
you.
so just
All
in
right.
block with that one there,
Perfect,
with the
yep.
exception. Okay, thank you. Absolutely. Okay, we'll now move on to 50-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. 5019, Mason Investments, Inc., Renew bowling alley license for Mason Bowling Center located at 640 North Main Street. Again, I believe that everything came back okay from the police and the tax collector, so my recommendation would be to grant 5019, and ask you to go to my committee.
Thank you. Council Frida,
I agree.
please requalify.
We have unanimous recommendation to renew the bowling alley license for Mason Bowling Center, 5019.
Thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant 50-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0, 50-19 has been granted. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We now move on to new business. Are there any items under new business? Counselor?
It's a question for the clerk, actually. I know when we were talking not long ago, you were talking about going upstairs to room 10 to swear in new police officers. Years ago, we used to have the police and the fire down here to introduce them to the public.
Right.
And I thought that was a great idea. A lot of people miss knowing who our new employees are in those positions. Is there a possibility they could be sworn in before our meetings or during our meeting? Police and fire?
I can talk to the chiefs about it.
That way it'll give an opportunity for the public to see, you know, who the new public safety people are.
Right. Good point. Thank you. Any other items under new business? If not, we'll move on to old business. We have Communication 6 from 2018. Why is it tabled or something? Oh, okay. Okay, I got you. All right, so that's what we're doing. Okay. All right, there had to be some language change, correct? Yep. Okay, and this was on the police station bond. So did everyone have a chance to review that? Who's gonna read finance?
Yes.
Okay. You want to read it? Counselor,
Have to
go
read
ahead.
the whole thing?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
All right, C-6, in accordance with Section 3-9 of the Leominster City Charter, a public hearing will be held on Monday, April 22nd at 6:40 PM in the council chambers, 25 West Street, Leominster, Mass. The subject of the hearing will be the following loan order. Ordered, the mayor is authorized to acquire by purchase, gift, and/or eminent domain 3 parcels of land located on Central Street, Leominster, namely 106 Central Street, 112 Central Street, and 116-124 Central Street, which parcels are shown on Assessor's Map 93 as parcels 5, 6, and 7 for general municipal purposes, including without limitation for police station purposes, on such terms and conditions as the mayor deems in the best interests of the city, and further to authorize the mayor to enter into any and all agreements and execute any and all instruments as may be necessary or convenient to effect said acquisition as funding therefor. Further ordered that the sum of $2 million is appropriated for the cost of the foregoing acquisition and the development of the property for the police station purposes, including without limitation for the costs of remediation, demolition, site preparation and/or design, and costs incidental or related thereto. And to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $2 million in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, and/or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, and further ordered that any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, lest any such premium apply to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of project costs approved hereunder, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs.
Okay,
So
we'll establish a public hearing,
we need to vote on the hearing.
right, 6:40
So
PM.
the recommendation is to establish a public hearing on the authorization on April 22nd, 2019 at 6:40 PM. And I would expect that my committee is unanimous on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is to establish the hearing. Are we granting or authorizing as well?
I think
We already
could do-
did, we already did.
I think we need to vote on it after the hearing, right?
After the hearing, we'll re-vote again?
So the only thing we're
Okay.
voting on this evening is establishing the hearing.
That's it, okay, all right, good. Council, sir, the recommendation to establish the hearing on Communication 6 dated 2018. Are there any comments or questions on the floor?
Do it.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote for this. I'm sorry, Council Frida.
Is there something we have to do for other time, or don't we have to make some kind of recommendation, no?
Well, this is what I'm looking for.
So, the reason why it was on tonight is so it could go regular course and be read for the first time.
Right.
And then we had to establish a public hearing date for the public to have, and then we'll have the public hearing at our next meeting, and then we'll close that public hearing and vote on the new language one more time, and then it will go back to the bond council, who kind of rejected it back to us for this language, and then it can continue through that process.
So it's regular
So
course.
regular course would be the
with,
first time.
with the vote on the hearing date.
That's it. Okay? All right, any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, Council, sir, the recommendation to establish the hearing and also regular course, we agree to that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 7-0. Regular course, establishing a hearing date for April 22nd, 2019, at 6:40 PM in the council chambers. Thank you. We now move on to 20-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, I think so. 20-19, second reading of an ordinance. Elizabeth Wood, Planning and Development Director, to amend the zoning ordinance accordingly. Remove the section of Article 1322-71.1 that states signs may not extend above the building's roof line or the wall upon which the sign is located. This contradicts Section 22-71.9.1 that covers sign height and states that a sign may extend 8 feet above the roof line. The recommendation would be to grant. I'll go to the other member of Legal Affairs.
Thank you,
Yes.
Council Bonanza.
I'm in accord.
Thank you. Please requalify
Unanimous recommendation is to grant the second reading,
to adopt it.
adopt it.
Okay, thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance 20-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? This will require a 2/3 vote of the whole council, which is 6 in the positive. Beginning with Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Oettinger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I should record as yea by a vote of 7-0. The second reading has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to 27-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
27-19, second reading of an ordinance. Mark C. Bonanza Esquire, to amend Section 13-77, stop signs of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for northbound traffic on Crochy Lane at the intersection of Woodside Avenue. Again, I'll go to Councilor,
Councilor Bonanza?
It should be no surprise that I'm in accord with this one.
I think not.
I always have a
Frida?
change of heart, you know.
No.
The unanimous recommendation
Thank
to
you.
adopt the second reading.
Thank you. Council, sir, that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Again, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Oettinger.
Yay.
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
And I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7-0. The second reading has been adopted on petition 27-19. Thank you. We now move on to 28-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President, and just for the record, I would do these in block, but I know we can't.
You're right.
So,
And you'd be
just
the
in
first
case
one to
anybody's
tell me.
wondering,
You'd be the first one to tell me, or Cormier, but he's not here
I
tonight.
would, trust me. 28-19, second reading. Mark C. Bonanza Esquire, to amend Section 13-77, stop signs of the Leominster Municipal Code by adding a stop sign for northbound traffic on Old Brook Road at the intersection of Woodside Avenue. Again, I will go to the other member of my committee.
Councilor
I'm gonna
Bonanza?
give it a thumbs up again.
Thank you. Councilor Frida?
Unanimous recommendation to adopt the second reading.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for 28-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Putting in stop signs should be a lot easier than this, huh? You know, it should be a simple thing. All those, we're going to do a roll call vote for all those in favor, beginning with Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. 28-19, the second reading has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to petition 29-19. Is a chairwoman ready to report?
I am. 29-19, David R. Cormier. Install a stop sign on Hawthorne Road against southbound drivers at Grant Street. Again, I'll go to the other member of my committee.
Thank you. Counsel Bonanza,
I'm in favor.
please requalify.
Okay, it's a unanimous recommendation to adopt 29-19.
Thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for 29-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counsel Frida.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
I shall record as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. The second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Thank you. We'll now move on to petition 30-19. Is a chairwoman ready to report?
I am. 30-19, David R. Cormier. Install a stop sign on Hawthorne Road against northbound drivers at Queens Road. Again, I'll go to the other member of my committee.
Counsel Bonanza.
I'd like to tell him no, because I'd just like to let him know that later on, to get the reaction, but I'm in favor.
Funny.
I'm sure he's watching this, so.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
You've lost him at the cemetery spending, I can tell you that.
Exactly right.
I was going to bring that up. That's the first time we've had cemetery spending without
Without
a
him
comment in
here.
probably, how long? 12 years?
Or a negative vote.
I know. So we're getting back to 30-19.
30-19, the recommendation is to adopt the second reading.
Thank you. Council, sir, that recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for petition 30-19. Are there any comments or questions? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Frida.
Yay.
I shall record as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. The second reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to petition 31-19.
31-19, second reading of an ordinance. David R. Cormier, install a stop sign on Iris Road against northeast-bound drivers at Grant Street. I'll go to the member of my committee.
Counsel Bonanza.
The recommendation is unanimous to
you.
adopt the second reading.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for petition 31-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Frida.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. The second reading of the ordinance for petition 31-19 has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to 32-19, Madam Chair.
32-19. At least the clerk isn't looking for a stop sign before marriages. Caitlin Huffman, city clerk, requests to amend the current $15 marriage intention application fee to the new proposed fee of $30. This fee would be effective as of July 1st, 2019. I'll go to the other member of my committee.
Counsel Bonanza.
I'm okay.
Thank you. Please requalify.
The recommendation is unanimous from the committee to adopt the second reading.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for petition 32-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counsel Frida.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7 to nothing. The second reading of the ordinance for 32-19 has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to 33-19. Madam Chair, you're ready to report.
33-19, Caitlin Huffman, City Clerk. Request to amend the revised ordinances, Chapter 12, Article 1, Section 12-2, Number 52, dog licenses, to include a new fee to read, quote, service dogs, no fee, end of quote. I'll go to the member of my committee.
I'm in
Counsel
favor.
Bonanza. Thank you. Please requalify.
Unanimous recommendation to adopt second reading on 33-19.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for petition 33-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Counsel Cormier.
Yay.
Counsel Odenger.
Yay.
Counsel Bonanza.
Yay.
Counsel Feckley.
Yay.
Counsel Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counsel Frida.
Yay.
I shall record yea by a vote of 7-0. The second reading of the ordinance for 33-19 has been adopted. Thank you. We'll now move on to the last petition here, 34-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am. 34-19, Caitlin Huffman, City Clerk. Request to amend the revised ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-9, letter P. And I will read that section. Appointments by the mayor designated is hereby amended by deleting subsection P in its entirety and inserting in its place the following. The mayor shall annually, not earlier than July 15th, nor later than August 15th, appoint as election officers for each voting precinct, one warden, one deputy warden, one clerk, one deputy clerk, 4 inspectors, and 4 deputy inspectors, who shall, at the time of their appointment, be enrolled voters in the Commonwealth, except as provided in General Laws, Chapter 54, Section 11B. Provided, however, that the city may request the state secretary for a waiver to allow the city to appoint fewer election workers than specified in this section. The mayor may, in like manner, additionally appoint 2 inspectors and 2 deputy inspectors, and such additional inspectors to count and tabulate the votes as he may deem necessary. Every such appointment shall be filed in the office of the city clerk within 48 hours after it is made, and shall be acted on by the city council not less than 3 days after the filing of such appointment, and on or before September 1st following. After said September 1st, the mayor, with the approval of the city council, may from time to time appoint temporary additional inspectors to count and tabulate votes. Records of appointments shall be made open to the public inspection. I will go to the other member of my committee.
Counsel Bonanza?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Please requalify.
The unanimous recommendation of the committee is to adopt the second reading of the ordinance.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read to adopt the second reading of the ordinance for petition 34-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Council Feckley.
Yay.
Council Bonanza.
Yay.
Council Odenger.
Yay.
Council Cormier.
Yay.
I shall be recorded as yea by a vote of 7-0. The second reading of the ordinance for petition 34-19 has been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and also Council Frida for taking over tonight. We appreciate that. We now have community calendar. There's a lot happening. I don't have it in front of me. Obviously, the Lassie League, the Little Leagues are going to be, I haven't seen anything come across my desk yet, but when we get the invitations, I'll make sure you're all notified as to what's happening with that. We have Memorial Day services coming up not too far off. Be talking to you about that as well. And a lot of things happening at the school. The junior prom, I guess, went off without a hitch. They did a great job. The kids were wonderful, all the volunteer teachers and administrators that went. It was just a joyous occasion. I had a chance to go up with my grandson and his girlfriend to Sholem Farm, thinking they were going to have some quiet moments to take pictures with a few friends, and there had to be 100 kids up there with parents. You know, if they had apples were being sold, they would have made $1 million. You know, but it happens to be spring. There's no apples yet. But in the meantime, congratulations to them. Congratulations. Are there any other items of the community calendar, Councilor Frida?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we had our vocational awards dinner last week, and it was a tremendous success. There were a lot of very happy people, well-deserving employees, and we had just about 200 people, and it was a perfect night. So just wanted to again
Congratulations.
congratulate all these people.
That's awesome. Thank you. Any other items of the community calendar? You know, we have a date Wednesday night for those who can make it for the Tri-City Council dinner. It'll be taking place, okay? We're all set on that. We're going to adjourn. Meeting's over. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I was going to say before we adjourn,
pull
maybe
it
you
back.
did it and I missed it. Do we offer condolences for Councilor Dabrowski's mother?
I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. I was gonna, okay, it's
Good point.
formal. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll send something out. Councilor Dabrowski's mother has passed. Calling hours will be this Sunday from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. at Curly Marshand Funeral Home on West Street. And the funeral will be, from what I understand, private, family only on Monday, okay? So if
Maybe a-
there's
maybe a-
anyone that would like to reach out to John Dombrowski, I know his law office address is right on
Grove.
corner of Grove and West. You can also send cards or notes to the clerk's office, and if you can attend the calling hours again, 2 to 4 on Sunday.
Could-
Council
Could I
Bonanza,
suggest a moment of silence before we officially adjourn?
be glad to. Yeah, good. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great gestures. Thank you. Council Frida?
I'd just like to add, I've known John's mother for many, many years. She was a realtor, and we go back a long way. She's affectionately called Cookie. Everybody loved her, and she was just a great lady. So I just wanted to offer those words.
Thank you. That's appreciated, I'm sure. You have anything else? Yeah, let's hold off 1 second. The clerk's going to talk about the new phone system here at the City Hall.
So if you guys, or if anybody in the public have tried to call us on our old number, it's not going to work. We just got a brand new phone system in about a week ago. Our new mainline number is 978-534-7500, and you'll be prompted for different departments at that time. The city clerk's office is extension 3, and I will send a new list of phone numbers to all the city councilors, so everything's updated.
So essentially, you're calling the mayor's old number, and that's going to get you into the prompts. And then if there's any glitch, you can hit 1 at that point, the mayor's office will answer, and they'll be able to direct you. 0 for that? 0. Okay, thank you. Yes? Under community calendar, or?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yep. Under community calendar, I wanted to mention that the school department has embarked on a strategic planning initiative, and Superintendent Paula Deacon sent out notices with 3 different opportunities to comment. There was one on Saturday, this past Saturday, April 6th. There are 2 more coming up. One is scheduled this Thursday, April 11th, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Leominster High School cafeteria. And the final 3rd session is being held on Friday, April 19th, from 3 to 5 p.m. also in the Leominster High School cafeteria. This is very important, so people that are concerned or want to weigh in on the future of Leominster's public schools, this is a great opportunity to do that and be part of this planning process.
Thank you. Great point. Thank you. Anything else? We're good? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.